Greetings and welcome to this 19th of January 2023, third decade of the 21st century. For those that are new to my channel, I always like to point out that it is in fact the third decade of the 21st century, to kind of point out that for those of us that are old enough, people had once predicted where we would be in the 21st century, let alone the third decade of the 21st century. And I always like to point that out to kind of compare and contrast where we actually are. What are we actually talking about? What sort of things are popular? So on and so forth. On my channel, I like to do one of two things. A little socio-political content, maybe from a different angle, different perspective, and some geeky, nerdy stuff. And every once in a while, sometimes the lines blur, and both of which are affected or impacted or whatever. Case in point. So, a few days ago, I put out a video pertaining to a fan page I'm on Facebook, dedicated to the television show Chuck. And keeping it simple, basically there's two camps: people who like the ending, people who didn't like the ending. And what I noticed was one or more individuals who liked the ending. I mean, they liked the ending so much so that they reminded me of modern day culture, where they were not only invested in their idea, but they were invested in a way that it was not just an idea, but it was a belief. And like they were married to the idea, married to the concept. And they were almost preaching as if to convert people to their way of thinking, or else. Like, how could you not? Why can't you? What is wrong with you? And it's like, what's wrong with you? Who cares if we disagree? We all agree that we're fans of the show. We enjoy the show, and that's why we're on this page, to talk about the show and reminisce and remember what once was. I didn't realize we were there to argue, and I did a video about that. And then yesterday, I was once again on Facebook, and another fan page I'm on dedicated to Firefly. One of the admins, possibly the chief admin, put out a memo stating, hey, be advised. Some of the quotes and phrases from our beloved show are now being flagged by Facebook as incitement to violence, insensitive, triggering, all of these modern day terms that I guess may or may not fall under the woke agenda. And I have my thoughts and opinions on the woke agenda, but I'm not going there. Some of us, we understand and yet don't like it at the same time. Some of us may agree that we understand and don't like it at the same time, but also share different views. Some of us who agree and don't like it may be woke. Some of us who agree and don't like it may not be woke. We may be all ends of the spectrum, but some of the conversations that have progressed from that memo have been, for all intents and purposes, civil. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know what the delineating factor is. If maybe the people who are admins for the Chuck fan page don't censor as much as maybe the admins do on the Firefly fan page I'm on. But everybody was terribly civil, and everybody was even somewhat sarcastic. I myself posted, using a quote. So if one of us accidentally, forgets about the memo and not purposely posts one of the quotes that has one of the offensive words, are we going to go to the special hell? Special hell is a quote from Firefly. And there's been some warm responses. And quite frankly, I don't know if it's the admins who control the content, where maybe on the Chuck fan page there's less control, and on the Firefly fan page there's more control, so that the Firefly admin tries to make sure that it maintains civility. But it's just so funny that, once again, third decade of the 21st century, Facebook has gone so far as to implement controls that don't take any context into consideration. Now, I'm not trying to, make this all about one particular thing in general, but for those of us that are on the page, the fan page, we're there for a reason. We have a shared goal, a shared interest, and you shouldn't be and wouldn't be on that page if anything directly quoting the 14 episode long season and the one movie is triggering. At least you should not be. So if we're quoting lines from the 14 episodes or the movie and you find it triggering, A, you probably aren't a fan of Firefly Serenity. B, you probably shouldn't be on the page to begin with. And I don't know if there's a C or a D. Just, I mean, but Facebook decided to alert the admin that, hey, using certain words and phrases will potentially result in getting the page deleted altogether. If not, the post will be deleted. Pardon me a second, I need a drink. All right, sorry about that. I found that fascinatingly disturbing, and I'll tell you why, as this is somewhat of a blurry combo of socio-political / nerdy. So on these two pages I'm on, and there's more, I could be on a Smallville page, a Supernatural page, and a few other properties. But for the two that I'm on right now, the overall intent and goal is for fans of these properties to, you know, join together and reminisce and geek out and nerd out about, you know, a piece of entertainment that entertained us, that we all enjoyed. You know, it's endeared itself to us, and it's brought us plenty of enjoyment, and we may basically, you know, like to continue on the legacy through these pages, right? And the fact that Facebook can't seem to recognize that, in which case I'll go in two different directions. Either A, Facebook doesn't care about context. Facebook doesn't care what the source, like the fan page, is about. It's just a blanket, nondescript, non-discriminating rule that they're putting out. In which case, okay, I get it. I don't have to like it, but I get it. Or Facebook has it within their capacity to separate and segregate and understand that we're talking about something specific that has very specific context, and in no way, shape, or form should it be triggering, because the page is private. All right, you have to be allowed onto the page. And as far as I know, the page I'm on with Firefly, this Browncoats page, I don't remember it by name, and I apologize. The admins do a really, really good job trying to control the content on the page so that it is not below board. It's always above board. And I just found it fascinating. And it kind of leads me into some other areas. I was listening to something on the radio as I was on my way to run an errand, and the short version is this. The part of the reason I bring it up is because I find a tremendous amount of hypocrisy in certain things. Nobody's inclined to agree. Nobody has to agree. If you do agree, perhaps it's coincidental. If you don't agree, I'd like to hear from you. I find there's a tremendous amount of hypocrisy. So I was listening to the radio, and the short version is something happened, but sources can I think it has to do with the Idaho shooter, the Idaho murderer. Well, they're trying, it sounds like reports are coming in that they can link him to right-wing, right-leaning, conservative-leaning outlets or figures or whatever. So the spin is this is a right-wing, white supremacist, you know, Republican sympathizing, whatever the case may be. And since in my opinion, my estimation, the overwhelming majority of news outlets are left-leaning, this will get a tremendous amount of traction. This will get a tremendous amount of news play. Whereas conversely, if something of equal or greater horror takes place and the person is more left-leaning, like the Bernie supporter that shot up the DC softball game between elected officials, or the Las Vegas shooter that shot the concert up, you know, my estimation, I don't mean to stammer there, my estimation is that if the individual perpetrating these acts has more in common with the media outlets it won't get the same level of attention as somebody who is in opposition to the majority of media outlets. And I think that's terribly hypocritical that these media outlets are now actively taking sides, because what that eventually leads to is a form of fascism, a form of activist, Marxism, communism, where these outlets are basically controlling content so that it's completely lopsided versus neutral, and that's not what the original intent was for, at least not in my opinion. And I just find that terribly hypocritical. And the reason I bring it up is because that same umbrella of thinking is permeating into these areas of fandom, where people are just trying to commune together on a social media platform to talk about something that they all enjoyed. And now this overly intrusive, dictator-like mentality is intruding upon these spaces, and I just find it terribly hypocritical. And a lot of people have commented on it, and I've agreed with them, that the woke / cancel culture mob mentality is so cannibalistic that it will eventually consume itself and go away. However, we still have to deal with it while it is here. And I'll try to finish off with this. At one point in time, the majority of us in society had once agreed upon things that were right and wrong. We may have differed on a great many things, but there were certain concepts we once agreed were right and wrong. Nobody born in America seemed to be terribly at odds with the flag. It was generally accepted the flag represents our country, and nobody had a problem with it. The Pledge of Allegiance, it used to be that nobody had a terrible problem with that. Nobody was overly invested in it. There was a rare fringe group a little over a decade ago that were all up in arms about it because one nation under God. The fact that God was spoken of, they thought that it was too religiously intrusive upon those who don't have faith or believe differently. And I feel like whether it goes back to the Obama administration or before that or whatever the case may be, I feel like we made the mistake of opening the door to listening to dissenting views and dissenting opinions that ran perpendicular to what we as a society all once agreed upon. And I'm not trying to be purposely vague, but when we once used to agree on certain things as a society, like a common bond, a common thread, taking advantage of children in any way was wrong. Just certain concepts that we once all had a sense of agreement upon, we don't share that anymore. And I personally believe that we are entertaining way too many concepts that were once considered inappropriate and attempting to normalize more ideas and concepts that we once agreed were not normal. All right, that they were fringe, that they were inappropriate with good reason. And I think in all honesty, what's going to end up happening is the people that have bought into it too hard and too heavy are going to eventually go after and attack enough people that at one time were allies, that your idea will eventually burn itself out. The problem I have is, how long do we have to wait? How long before we as a society eventually come together and agree that this woke, this cancel, this mob censorship mentality has reached its course and enough is enough? How much damage has to be done? I mean, my God, when a fan page dedicated to a show that only had 14 episodes is under attack because people want to quote it word for word, I mean, what the hell? I mean, seriously, when is enough enough? When is anything you know, safe? And I'm curious. I want to hear from you, all right? I think that's about the simplest way I could put it. You know, there's probably a handful of other things I could talk about, but that's about the best way I can put it. When is enough enough? When can we all eventually get to the point where we agree right is right, wrong is wrong, you're free to be who you are, just don't demand that other people fall in line, all right? Because right now, I think the mob is in control and the mob's winning, and I don't think the mob is right, but that's just my 2 cents. I'd like to hear back from you, all right? I don't care if you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, dislike. I'm really only interested in furthering the conversation. That's all I'm trying to do. If you leave a comment, I promise I will read, react, and respond to it. And whether you agree or disagree, I appreciate the conversation nonetheless. And that's all I'm trying to do is push the conversation forward. So if you do, I appreciate it. You're awesome. Till next time, my friends.